We keep hearing AI is changing everything, including real estate investing, but here is the real truth. Anybody can dump an OM into AI and ask, is this a good deal? And if you do that, you might get a confident answer that's completely wrong. This skill isn't in uploading the documents. The prompts matter, questions matter, verification matters. You need to force AI to double check the numbers, flag inconsistencies, and show its work. In this video, I'm underwriting a real multifamily deal for a client, and I'm going to show you the exact framework I use to turn AI into a senior level multifamily property analyst. We'll find red flags, calculate NOI, debt payments, cash flow, run a sensitivity analysis on the variables that actually matter to you as a seasoned investor, and we're even going to catch a mistake the AI makes live in this analysis. And don't worry, we have a link below so you can steal this prompt from us. Let's start with a document stack that will get the best analysis. Several choices for AI models. We started doing this in ChatGPT, but it wasn't quite listening, not doing the analysis how we wanted. So I switched to Gemini and I was happy with this. Gemini has the other advantage of a larger context window, which means that you can upload a lot of stuff and continue to ask questions and it won't forget what you uploaded in the beginning. This is the free version of Gemini. I have a paid account, but I wanted to see if it would allow me to do this in a free version so that you could do it in a free version without committing and paying money. And I did use up the thinking version of Gemini 3 for analyzing this property, but it's going to reset tomorrow and I still have access to these other models, or I could just pay. The other nice thing is there wasn't a cap. I was able to upload the document stack for due diligence. I'll show you that in a second. So this is the big old prompt you can download from the link we have below, or you can just go in and go ahead and start asking these questions. But I highly encourage you to use a stress tested prompt like this one because it's very detailed. We put our prompt in, it said it's ready to go, perform a senior level institutional grade analysis of this property, and it asked us what we had. So I had the OM from the listing. I reached out to the listing agent, got the current rent roll, got a T12, and the other important thing is the property tax bill. This is in Santa Barbara. I was able to download a PDF of the two property tax bills. Why two? Well, this is actually a property that has two separate addresses and APNs. I want the property tax bill so I can calculate the property taxes accurately. So I uploaded what I had from the listing agent and my own due diligence. There's a landscaping expense the agent talked about. He emailed me on that. We got property tax bills for both of them. We have the OM going in and a rent roll. And I added a note. The SB 721 inspection, the agent told me was done and the owner has to do a small repair on the stairs. SB 721 is for exterior elevated elements. 3 units or larger, we need to have an inspection and a report created around decks, balconies, and stairwells. That was done. So it went ahead and it started analyzing the different things I had uploaded and it pulled out what's important. I got the management fee as a percentage. That's another important thing when we do our sensitivity analysis. Broke down the unit mix, did its analysis on the property taxes, found a slight discrepancy, not a big one, but what it boiled down to, it got its base rate, the derived rate, and then there's the fixed charges for vector control and flood control. So it's going to remember this when we do our sensitivity analysis because property tax is going to be different at different price points. That's going to affect the net operating income and the cash flow. So here's where it made a mistake. And that's why we have to know what we're putting into AI and understand why we're putting these things into AI. It's called out a resident versus rent column. And it says there's a significant difference between those columns on the rent roll. And it maybe looks like there's Section 8 or some sort of housing subsidy. So let's see what it actually did. And we corrected this mistake and I'll show you what happened next. So it's a simple mistake. It read the rent roll, saw this column that said rent, and knew that that was the rent for the units, but it also saw this column here, resident, black line, deposit. So it only read that as resident, so it assumed that that's what the resident was paying. I let it know that that column is actually for the security deposit for the resident. Also wanted to point out that this is a thorough Rent roll, which is going to help us with analysis, talks about which units are renovated. And then it also shows us when the lease expires, etc. That's important for the analysis we'll do. So it was as simple as telling the AI, telling Gemini on the rent roll, that second column is actually resident deposit. Those are the security deposit amounts. Please rerun based on this. So it did. And it ran through and it figured out that the numbers now make more sense when that's actually a security deposit column. Moves that landscape expense from an operating expense to a CapEx because it's a one-time expense. Talks about the unrenovated units. The OM supports this claim and says 14 of 16 are renovated. And then it flags a security deposit variance. And what it's saying is that there's a low security deposit for unit 6. Rent's $2,770. Security deposit is $1,200. Just something to ask the agent on. Very typical when there's a renter who's been there a long time that the deposit hasn't increased with the rent. This is amazing data to look at, and then it breaks it down into a spreadsheet. You can copy and paste this entire chat into a separate document, and you have an easy to read deal sheet. And it gives you a few other things that you can follow up on. Any plans to implement a RUBS program. So that's ratio utility billing services. That would help reduce the costs related to water and gas. There's a boiler system here, which means that the landlord's paying to heat the hot water, so the gas expense is slightly high. That's where RUBS would come in and help. And then ask about renovating those 2 unrenovated units. So now it's time for a rent increase schedule. Maybe this doesn't matter to you. You say no and you move on, but I think it's handy to look at this. We're going to increase the rents 5%. And that's with a 30-day notice, which is required in the state of California. This property is only subject to the Tenant Protection Act, not any special local rent control ordinance that would make that a smaller number for rent increases. And in Santa Barbara at this point in time, you can do up to 7.7% for an annual increase. So 5% is conservative. What it's done is it's shown you what the current rent is. It shows you when you can give the earliest increase, shows you the new pro forma rent and how much that increase is, and adds it all up. Now, it's not perfect. The earliest notice date, it says 1/20, which is the day I'm shooting this video. We haven't closed on this property yet, so you could put that in there when you say, yes, I would like it based on a close date of March 1st. And then it also has the earliest effective date for those rent increases on being March 1st. When you've given it on January 20th, you don't need that long. Rent increase does not have to happen at the first of the month. It could be prorated and fall in the middle of the month, but for easy numbers, it did this. So this breaks it down and shows you what you'll have after all those increases are done. Of course, you can use this prompt if you're looking to buy or sell multifamily real estate, but why not reach out to a professional like our team to help you properly position your next acquisition? Now that we got that, why not create a pro forma income progression table that shows when these can go into effect and what our income looks like throughout the year. So it runs through and shows the increases and how it changes the total monthly rental income. And it's going to take us almost a full year to get to the point where we have all those units increased 5%. And we can keep this rolling because by then we'll be able to give increases to the people we gave increases early on. So one of the cool things here is the velocity. So within the first 30 days of acquisition of the property, you give the notice of increase, and within 30 days, you'll capture roughly 30% of the total projected upside. So that's going to help potentially make the property pencil better 30 days in. So what do you do next? Well, let's do debt service and cash flow analysis. So I actually wanted to see if I could trick it here, because one of the things I didn't upload is a loan scenario, and you're going to need that for your debt service and cash flow analysis. It asked me, hey, do you want to upload one? So it knew I didn't. Or it's asking me, hey, do you want to just provide a few different loan details and we can run the numbers? Let's do that. I will ultimately, if my client wants to move forward, we'll get a loan scenario from a few different multifamily loan officers I know, but right now we can just go ahead and estimate things. We're going to go the down payment of $3 million, and I told it to keep this fixed because it's a 1031 exchange. This particular buyer has to place $3 million. He's not going to take any boot. He's also going to have to replace a little bit of debt service, but there's enough wiggle room. If the replacement debt service is a big deal for you, then you may want to actually add that in here to make sure that when you do the sensitivity analysis, that it doesn't go below that. If you didn't understand any of that, reach out. I'll explain it to you. We'll use an interest rate of 5.75%. You could choose whatever you want here. So I did 5-year fixed, amortized over 30 years, and we're going to do interest only for the first 5 years. And here we go. We have the analysis. And what it's showing is the interest only payment. It shows us our monthly cash flow, and it's showing the debt service coverage ratio is definitely met. I didn't think we'd have an issue there. And our cash on cash return, if that's important to you, is 4.22 based on that down payment. So now comes the fun part. It's time for the sensitivity analysis. What variables are important to you as an investor? For this particular investor, we're going to do the sensitivity analysis at different price points. So the acquisition price, 6.5 down to 5.5. We'll choose 5 different price points, letting the AI decide. I want to compare the current income and pro forma income. And then for this particular investor, monthly cash flow is important. So let's go ahead and show them the monthly cash flow based on these different variables. So it's recalculated the property taxes accurately. I made sure in this prompt to make sure that happened. Management fees are held at 5%. Got to make sure that's calculated correctly based on the different income, pro forma or actual. So you can see what happens when we take that acquisition price and we drop it. Obviously, the monthly cash flow is going to go up because our debt service payments are going down, and we're also seeing a better cap rate as we go. The next scenario is those different price points based on the pro forma income. We can get this thing to around a 6% cap rate based on pro forma income, which is a conservative 5% increase at around that $6 million price point. We're right there at a 6%, which is pretty darn good for Santa Barbara. So now you have that all baked into this particular chat here in Gemini, and you can play around with it however you want. Do some more sensitivity analysis, choose different variables, whatever's important to you. All the data is in here. Now we know roughly whether this is going to work for our investor client or not. We can move forward with getting the loan scenario. We have options, and we continue to stress test this property. Let us know in the comments below how you would use this analysis and what's important to you as an investor. And if you found this use of AI helpful, you're going to want to check out this next video right here.